Sweet.
Yeah. Welcome everybody. I'm happy to have you here. We are going way too fast. Let's slow that down a little bit. We are here on the round 4 Sovereign of Subways. I'm joined by David Ender on the left and Netjogging on the right. Neither of them are to my left or to my right. It's just a screen thing.
Yeah. So the most important thing for this matchup, for viewers to know, is what Au Revoir does, because Netjogging is on Au Revoir, and it very much
As were
changes
you,
the whole
right?
game.
Weren't you on the same one?
Oh, I totally was. Yes. Yeah. I don't want to spoil how this match turns out right now, but for at least this game, yeah, the most important thing is understanding Au Revoir. So I'll let Netjogging explain his deck here.
Sure. So Au Revoir Wu is a deck that uses the Wu ability, so you can click and search your deck for a program. If it is installed at the end of the turn, it's going to be removed from game. You can get around that with a card called SMC. So you tutor for SMC and then go and grab your Au Revoirs. You're going to gain the amount of credits equal to the Au Revoirs you have installed whenever you jack out. And that whenever card, I think, is the most critical part there. Any card that says whenever automatically should have your attention, because there's another card that also says whenever, and that card is called Turning Wheel.
Yep. Yeah. So the Wu deck has many ways to get that out very quickly. And so if you have an open server, a server that it's not protected by ice, then you can run that server and immediately jack out, and it becomes stronger than Magnum Opus.
Which is insane. Just insane
Yes.
value.
Yeah. Now the difficulty is, of course, most decks do not leave servers wide open, so the deck runs a couple of tools to deal with that. Most notably, Lamb plus Ankusa.
Right. So whatever the ice is, you're going to turn it into a barrier, and then Ankusa also says whenever, I believe, or is it just the first time?
It's whenever. Yeah.
Yeah, so another card that says whenever. So whenever you break a piece of ice with Ankusa, you can bounce it back to hand. So essentially what you can do is you're going to gain money while the corp is going to spend clicks reinstalling and re-resing that ice. So you're playing like a denial game while setting up this end game where you can access their whole deck if the game goes that long with Turning Wheel.
Yeah.
Yes, exactly. So I know, I'm fairly confident he's on Au Revoir, given that he's on Cabanisa. And so I'm aware of the fact that he wants open servers to bounce off of and get money. So I'm going to try to stop that as best I can.
So as Aginfusion, is your plan versus this from like the start make as few remotes as possible?
Well, this deck typically only makes one remote at most, but I will be delaying the remote until I'm confident that he can't just roll over me and make infinite money.
Gotcha. That makes sense.
Yeah, and the deck that I'm running runs a suite of fairly spiky ice, so when he does run, he has to break that ice. So yeah, you see me. I mean, it's just basic beginner turn.
Yeah.
Get some money, and I can't realistically ice all 3 servers turn 1. So I don't plan to. But my hope is in the next turn or 2 that all of my centrals will be iced.
Yeah. Just fair. I mean, Aginfusion, I would feel like has a pretty good matchup because you want to be really rich and you want to have a lot of really nice ice that's hard to deal with. And you're not looking to make a lot of remotes. So,
Yeah.
I mean, you've got Anansi, you've got DNA Tracker, you've got all these like big, really mean pieces of ice.
Yep. And it also it's also difficult for Au Revoir because I don't have to have money. As soon as one of my ice is rezzed, I don't need money in order to punish him for running one of my servers. I just need to bounce him using my identity over to another piece of ice.
Yeah.
So it might be worth explaining what Aginfusion actually does. So if he is approaching one of my unresed pieces of ice, I can use my identity, this is once per turn, to force him over to a different server, encountering the outermost ice. Now, importantly, if it's not resed, that skips past the res window, so he would just, nothing would really happen. He would just move to a different server.
Yeah. Netjogging, looks like you started your opening hand a little weird. You had an Au Revoir to start in the beginning, which is not really what you want to see, if I'm correct.
Yeah, Au Revoir in hand is fine.
Okay.
I think and you saw me talking to my teammate there. I think you really want to gamble, just like an extra little tiny bit of money or a stim hack or something that you can use. The hand didn't have that. It had SMC, it had a breaker, it had a memory source, and an Au Revoir. So the idea was to try to draw into a stim hack or a sure gamble. There's 3 of both of them. Didn't see it, so kind of slowed down a little bit with turning wheel and getting the 2 Au Revoirs set up. Now that said, that might have been a mistake. I think the idea was to keep like a little bit of money, so if he does immediately ice everything, then I can deal with it. Now that's an IT department, and that thing scares me, so I take it away.
Yeah, that's a reasonable decision. I put it on the table because the decision is not an easy one to make. And if he leaves it there, then I can use it to try to lock him out, which can by itself win me the game. On the other hand, it has 4 trash costs, so it's non-trivial for him to trash.
Yeah, and I mean, especially turn 1 or turn 2, where like he would much rather get set up than have to spend 4 credits trashing an IT department.
Yeah, and so here I'm kind of digging for ice. I was hoping for more ice because I really want to shut down the Au Revoir engine as soon as possible. But I haven't drawn what I need to yet. I had discarded an agenda. You can see there.
It's a Nisei.
You just stole it from archives. My plan there, I believe I had a genotyping in hand, so I was planning on shuffling it back into R&D the turn after, but for the turn that it's there, it's vulnerable. Yeah. All right, and I finally have all of my servers iced. This is the position I was hoping to get into. It puts him in a more awkward spot.
Right, so you see me here asking how many credits he has? Trying to make a determination if I do run and hit something I don't like, how bad is it going to be? I decide that it could be pretty bad, so I'm drawing for answers.
Yeah. What is that? That looks like 19
that is
credits?
19. That's 19 credits. So the little purple rectangles are 5s, and the gray hexagons are 1s.
Yeah. Alright,
so I try to keep them arranged in rows of 10. If possible, so it's easier to count.
Yeah. Right. So it was money up, install a net chip, kind of take it easy, digging for pieces, digging for answers. And I mean, Jogging, you're up 2-0 at this point, very early in the game.
Right, and he has no remote, so although it's not what I want to do, I can draw up and slowly install cards.
Playing the who can build the complete engine first game. Can I get all of my spiky ice on the outside and enough money to res it? Or can I just become an unstoppable ice bouncing machine? Daily cast comes on the table and some credits. And then back to you, David.
Yep.
Still digging for ice?
It's a fairly slow game right now.
I think I might have paid for it twice there, but I don't know. The one thing that the stream or the YouTube people cannot hear is how loud and how long this event was.
Yeah.
So I don't know if you were feeling it, David, but I definitely was sensing the longevity of that event.
And it's on top of that, it's not like this is round 1 or round 2. This is round 4. After a lunch break and.
Yeah, so this is a fairly important point. So I just made a new remote with 2 cards installed in it. Viewers may have noticed earlier my hand sort of tilted a little bit, and you saw probably a Marcus Batty. This deck is running 3 Tithonium, which is an extremely punishing card if they're not able to break it, and Marcus Batty can often kill their breaker that is able to break it, meaning it will destroy a total of 3 programs and a resource and end the run.
And that
And
resource
same
clause
price.
is especially important for me, right? Because my deck
Yes.
relies on turning wheel. So anytime that you get that off the table and there's already resources invested in counters, that's a huge deal.
Yeah. Yeah.
There, I actually really like that you do this. Jogging is your handstand.
Yeah, that's new. I didn't do that until this year. I was shuffling all the cards in my hand, and I don't know. You want to look at them because your cards are what you can do in the game, right? You got the basic click actions, and you've got the cards in your hand. So this is a tool to just kind of look at them more, and also save your wrists for something that's a bit better.
Yeah. And the sleeves of the cards themselves, they get beat up.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, I'm over there shuffling my hand, beating up my sleeves. Anyways, so I installed a second piece of ice, and then I double advanced one of the cards that I installed earlier. So now he has to choose whether or not he's going to contest this. It could be an NGO, it could be a Future Perfect, could be a Nisei. It's unclear. But there's also an upgrade there, so it's a pretty big threat.
Right. And my credits aren't nearly enough to challenge it. I think I only have like 15.
Yeah.
So now down to just 11 or whatever that is after installing the Ngolo.
Yeah. So that's so you just installed an Ngolo, and that is a Cobra, a 1 strength sentry with a Trasher program subroutine and a 2 net damage subroutine. So he can break it using Ngolo right now. But it will cost him 4 credits and his once per turn Ngolo ability.
Yeah. But with the jack out, it makes it a net of 2 credits and a turning wheel counter. And
Yeah, net costs him 1 oh yeah, because he has 2 Au Revoir. Yeah, net costs him 2 credits, and he gets a turning wheel counter. But he can't just go back in because it's a sentry. Okay.
So, how important is the face checking now, jogging? How badly do you want to just know what this ice is?
To be honest, I wish he would say no res. Getting them to just get those turning wheel counters, getting the credits, that's what you want. The main reason that I'm running is just so he spends a bit of money. 4 is, I honestly wish that ice would have cost more. Something like a DNA tracker or a Nancy. Then I could maybe even pressure the remote there, right?
Mm-hmm.
But since I've already used the Ngolo ability, I can't really open myself up to that much risk and still run the remote at the same time.
Right.
So that HQ pressure allowed a Nisei to sneak its way out. And a new card to go into the server.
Yep.
So it's time to chain agendas now for David.
Yeah, I really want to apply pressure because he can eventually enable his Ankusa, Lamb, Au Revoir engine, and I can't just let him set up infinitely. Also, that remote is fairly dangerous, and I kind of want him to run it.
Yeah, so it's a combination of trying to score out, but also baiting these runs. And you got exactly what you asked for, because there's a Pulangia and a Stim Hack, so...
Yeah. So, I have a Nisei counter. Yeah, I have an Nisei counter. So I'm considering what to do here. Also, Tithonium can be rezzed for the cost of forfeiting an agenda. All right, so I just used an Nisei token because, well, the real reason is because I want to forfeit it to a Tithonium. But the apparent reason is because it's 9 credits, and I might as well just take those away from him right now.
And you don't want to give away the fact that the Tithonium is there so he could prep for it, just so
Right.
you end the run. And as retaliation, he comes into R&D.
Yep, he does. And so, you know, in addition to the choice between rezzing and not rezzing, I can choose to, you know, force him over into HQ, but that would leave R&D wide open. And I don't want to leave him a central server wide open.
Yeah. Even though it's relatively easy to break DNA
Right.
tracker with an Angolo, you'd rather force that tax. Also, I found playing Tithonium in a deck, when you're poor, nobody expects to eat a big giant piece of ice.
Yeah. That is, it's kind of silly how impactful that is. Like an archer, when you forfeit the agenda, you still have to pay 4 credits, but with Tithonium, you can either pay money or forfeit an agenda, and I have an agenda scored at the moment, so that's an option.
And Hydra's been under the radar for a little while, I think, ever since it did really well with that Worlds. I don't know if it was 17 or 18. But now it's making a resurgence?
Yeah, so a couple of things here. Employee strike is no longer restricted, it's banned. And employee strike was an absolute killer for Aginfusion. Now, of course, it existed before Aginfusion existed, but it wasn't so prevalent until MT really came to the forefront, where it was so incredibly strong against.
Right, and then MT also got restricted, right? So it makes this type of deck archetype a lot more viable.
All right, so he finally makes the run on the remote. I forfeit my Nisei to res the Tithonium without spending any money because I can't afford it. And then I res and immediately fire a baddie, which, if I win the Psy game, lets me fire one of the subroutines.
Yeah. And then he has to encounter as the first piece of ice. So if you win this game, you kill Angolo, and then Tithonium fires.
Yes, exactly.
There's a lot of thinking, because this is 1.4 speed. There's a lot of thinking going on in this side game right now.
Yeah, I think you could maybe even bump this up to 1.5.
Yeah, if you'd like to, yeah. So in terms of what to bid in this side game, it's essentially random. I honestly just rolled a die and randomly chose between 0 and 2 because the 2 credits that I might spend are completely irrelevant compared to the complete blowout that is a firing of the sub.
Yeah. Now, jogging, did you have a clone? I saw a clone chip in hand. It's not on the table right now, is it?
I think there is a clone chip, actually. So it's like net chip, Palongi, and then clone chip next to it.
Okay. There's no window to use it, but we'll see. It's fun, like, commentating these because we have to wait for, like, a moment where his arm passes over so we get the glare gone.
Yeah. But that is a Palongi, so the Palongi lets him break it with any breaker.
Mm-hmm.
But he still does, in fact, need a breaker to do it.
Yeah, this is definitely
my
a clone
credits
chip.
are only like 6, so the ability to deal with this ice isn't readily apparent.
Yeah, and there's no window for you to clone chip either.
I actually don't know if that's true. Yeah, I think there is.
Okay.
There is a window. So in between the baddie firing, I mean, he can clone chip during the window in which he can break ice. So so yeah, there's definitely a window.
Okay.
There isn't a window in between me rezzing the Tithonium baddie and firing it, but you don't really care about doing anything in that window anyways.
God, there's another really important like windowless Aginfusion. Is it the ID that leaves you windowless?
Yes. Well, so it doesn't let you. So let's say he ran archives right now for some reason, and I use my ability to, push him over from archives to that Tithonium. Then he would be forced to encounter it. There would be no approach. That actually hurts me more than it hurts him. The lack of a window there, because I don't have a window to fire a Marcus baddie in between me forcing him over into the encounter and him being able to break it.
Mm-hmm. Gotcha. Okay. I knew there was one very important window interaction for Aginfusion.
Yes.
So he eats it. You lose a pair of Au Revoirs, you lose an Angolo from the baddie, and you lose a turning wheel,
Yes.
which is pretty devastating.
Yeah, and end the run.
And the run as a kicker.
Yeah. This deck would almost certainly not exist without Tithonium.
On that last turn, did you purge the Palangi?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. I purged. Yeah, that is actually a very interesting decision. So I want all of my ice to be as threatening as possible to blowing you out. And the Palangi makes that much more difficult.
Yeah. That's one of the changes to this deck that you don't see in a lot of the Au Revoir Wu decks, is the Palangi. And that came from Jonas. It was Cavus who originally got me on this deck. And then I sent it to Jonas. And Jonas kind of trimmed the MU to add some more slots like Palangi and the Angolo. Just give you more abilities to deal with the things that you don't like.
Yeah. So the Palangi is a great inclusion here, for sure. It bought you another turn at the very least, and could have, in that situation that you played it and then run, if you had had another breaker, it would have made sure you survived with the Tithonium. But there are some other slots that you have cut for it. So, for example, you're only running one Lamb and one Ankusa, whereas some people are running two of each.
Yep.
So, it's slots. You have to figure out what the best use of your slots are.
Scavenge is the other one that's in here. So you can use the Wu ability just to grab a breaker straight out and then scavenge it out.
Yep. Which combines pretty well with Palangi.
So yeah, this actually came up in the last game. You cannot Wu for Palangi.
Yes, that is true.
Right.
Yes, it is a virus.
So I haven't broken that rule yet, but I was woefully unaware of it when it was brought up in the last match that we were commentating. So it might happen here. I hope it doesn't, but I'm pretty sure that Palangi came from hand.
Yeah, that's it. So I think you're accidentally searching your heap when you intended to search. Searching your stack when you intended to search your heap there.
Yeah, so I think we just shuffle it again.
Yeah,
I think
that's fine.
Yeah, it's another moment of similar to paying for daily cast twice, right?
Yep.
All right, here's another Typhonium.
So you ran archives, and I decided. So the agenda that I had scored recently was a Time Lake public release. So I used the Time Lake public release and then immediately forfeit it to res the Tithonium, because he does not have the capability of breaking it right now.
No, I think I have a clone chip, but I couldn't get it up to strength
Right.
or something to install and boost with the Angolo, something of that nature.
Yeah. Yeah. I think this is it. So you ran it. I let you run because you had no programs out. And then you installed the Au Revoirs and jacked out to get money. And then you ran it again. And then I resed the Tithonium.
Right. That must have been it. So I spent the clone chip, or there's one more left. There's a mysterious card next to the Pelongi.
Yeah. Yeah, it's hard to tell. Okay, so I install and res Drudge Work, Shuffle and Agenda back in RD. I'm managing a little bit of flood. It's not that bad, but I don't want to have too many agendas accumulate in HQ because I only have a Cobra protecting HQ.
So Drudge Work is the slot that used to be Wampoa. Is that right?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. And I would happily trade it out for Wampoa, but Wampoa is restricted.
Right.
And you haven't seen it yet in this game, but my restricted card is Excalibur here, which in many circumstances is extremely impactful. If they don't have an AI, then I can use if I have it rezzed somewhere else, I can use my ID to bounce someone over to the Excalibur, and then that's it. They can't continue running anymore.
Right. It turns your unres dice into Nisei counters.
Exactly. Nisei counters that also force them to never run again in that turn.
Right.
Yeah. I also run an executive boot camp in here for the express purpose of rezzing an Excalibur on archives.
Now, do you run the tech startups as well?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm actually in this build. I'm running one tech startup, one executive boot camp. In a more recent build, I have upped that to 2 tech startups and the executive boot camp. All right. So you're getting some money. And I think at this point for you, the Au Revoir engine is gone. You're not planning on pulling that off anymore.
I think I made that determination. I spoke to my teammate about it, and I think we called it at twice. I think what's remaining, because there's no levy, right? So
right,
you're taxing clone chips, and I think enough of them have been spent that you just want to use the clone chips for getting accesses. Yep. Now, that said, I think a better determination would have been, 1, call the game a couple minutes ago when it got Tithonium twice, or 2, actually don't make the determination to run baddie servers ever, and just use Turning Wheels as Maker's Eyes and Legworks and control the game from that point.
Right.
I think looking back on this now, I think that might have been a more defendable position.
Yes.
Wu is a very linear deck. So if anything, it trains you to execute the same game plan over and over again. Getting to that end state is difficult, but the main objective of the deck is to make that happen. Now, that said, I think a more high-profile decision would have been to actually kind of put that to the wind, recognizing that this was Hydra.
Yeah, as soon as you see Tithonium, you know it's almost certainly Hydra. That is the hallmark. Now, I mean, Tithonium's still good in other Aginfusion, but once you have Tithonium in there, IT department becomes extremely good, as do some other cards in the Hydra suite.
So then you used your last clone chip there to pull back a Pelongi. Why use it there and not hold on to the ability? Are those 4 credits so marginal that you felt you had to use them? Or so non-marginal?
I think I was trying to end the game as soon as possible. But you're right. You know, Batty, Tithonium, these trash subroutines. I think you save the clone chip for when you need it.
Hmm.
That said, I kind of want to get on to the next match as soon as possible. Was in my mind state.
Hmm.
Yeah.
But looking back, you know, if you are playing the long game, you want to save those clone chips or programs that you can break ice with.
Another ice and R&D. I'm trying to make my turns fast because at this point we're both really feeling the time pressure. But I still need 7 more points to win the game, so it's going to take a while.
Yeah, it makes it a little harder to win if you keep sacking your agendas.
Right. And that's actually, I think, a big weakness of the deck as it was when I played it there. It's a little bit too low on economy. So in more recent versions, I've upped the NGO front, upped the tech startup, and switched the timely public release out for a corporate sales team, and dropped a piece of ice. An expensive piece of ice. The DNA tracker is unfortunately not super effective because so many people are on Angolo. So it doesn't really tax the way I want it to.
Yeah.
Or Amina, right out of Criminal. That's becoming more common as well.
Yep, absolutely.
What were the other decks you faced on the day?
Oh man. Let's see. So the first match was against a Val who rebirthed into Omar and really pressured me. And she did a great job with that. And Hippo is a really big nightmare for Aginfusion because you want to have a punishing piece of ice on the outside, but that means that Hippo can destroy it. So that's an unfortunate part. But anyways, that was the only match that the only game that I lost that day was against that Val. I also played Leela, against whom I fired Tithonium, a pawn shop Haley. I fired Tithonium twice. And then there was one point where I clicked IT department 12 times and then they conceded. And then there was one game where a daily quest just got me an obscene number of credits, and then it was almost impossible for them to recover from the glacier.
Now, did you bring with you the IT department cheat sheet?
I intended to, but I actually forgot to print that out and bring it with me.
Yeah.
But I know the math in my head fairly well. So
I was never comfortable playing that card until the UK people printed out that for the world. I saw that, they put it on Slack. I'm like, all right, I'm comfortable with this card now.
Yeah. I mean, it involves squaring numbers, basically, or you want to know the square of, half plus one divided by 2, square that number. That's the biggest you can possibly make it.
-1, right? For the counter that you spend?
So let's say you have 11 credits, okay?
Yeah.
You spend 6 tokens to put 6 tokens on the ice. And then each of those provides 5 strength for the 5 tokens remaining on IT department, plus 1 for each. So it's 6 times 6.
Right.
Is the strength that you would have. And that's off of 11 tokens. So yeah, so once I get to that point, I can boost a Tithonium to strength 40, and a lot of decks are just dead to that.
I remember I was teaching a friend the game, and there was a Blue Sun deck that played one IT department. I think it was like a Boot Camp Blue Sun or something. And so we played with it. I'd never played with the card before.
Yep.
And I pull out this formula that's on Board Game Geek, and he's like, "Wait, let me read this card. That's not how these words mean. that's not what should happen." I don't know. There's not too many cards where you're like, just put a mathematical equation on it. But IT department is one of them because you read all of those words. It's a hunk of hunk of text, right?
Yep.
And I just didn't get that until I saw Board Game Geek. So shout outs to them.
Yep. Okay, so that's an upgrade in the remote. I'm preparing to score. Yeah, again, I need to score as soon as possible. But I'm really putting you in a bind here. I mean, you're trying to make do with relatively few resources to keep the pressure up and try to steal agendas. It's a tough spot.
Right, and it's pretty clear that they're all in R&D, but HQ is the only accessible place for me right now.
Right.
R&D is pretty heavily fortified right now, especially now that there's an upgrade in that remote. Why don't you pre-res the baddie? Knowing that you can bounce
it actually might not be a baddie.
Ah, okay. Fair enough.
There's one more upgrade in there, a Navi Mumbai City Grid, which is intended mostly for the Shaper matchup. It prevents anything that aren't icebreakers from doing any activated abilities, any paid abilities. So, for example, it would prevent Palangi, clone chip, self-modifying code, stuff like that. All of those would be completely inactive. And that makes things a lot more threatening.
Yeah, that really kneecaps a Shaper, not being able to do Shaper tricks.
With Lamb and Ngolo, both of those can break anything by themselves. So once he has both of those installed, he can break a Tithonium. He might not be able to break 2 Tithoniums, but he can break 1. Even if I baddie away a breaker.
In this matchup for you, David, is it important that you keep Beth not giving clicks? Is it important that you stay at 14 credits?
Not particularly. I mean, yes, it's a pain that he's getting more clicks. It's going to make things more difficult for me. But my primary concern right now is not so much limiting his number of clicks as it is scoring out as fast as possible.
Gotcha.
I want those scores to be secure, so I have an upgrade in there to at the very least threaten firing a Tithonium once. But yeah, I'm more concerned with the actual time on the clock than I am with the Beth.
Okay. So I know that's a big thing that I pay attention to when I play, and I don't know if it's a mistake or not, or if it's as matchup dependent or not, but whenever a Beth goes down, I do my very best to stay at 14 credits.
Yeah.
And it works, and it feels fancy, and it feels like I know what I'm doing. I'm like, you don't get a click, but I'm never sure if that's the right call or if I should just be like, well, I've got 30 credits, come deal with whatever with your 5 clicks.
Yeah.
So it's 4-0. You've got something double advanced in that remote. You've scored out 4 points of agendas, but
I have forfeited 4 points.
Yeah. R&D run now, checking to see if you want to res that ice. It's no res on the first. And it looks like no res on the second.
Yep. For a single access.
For a single access. But there's turning wheel back down.
Yep. Yeah, the Au Revoir has to run multiple copies because it wants to see it relatively early.
Yeah, and it's not searchable like some of the other pieces are.
All right. Scoring a feature perfect brings me up to 3. not the agenda I most want to score, but beggars can't be choosers.
Yeah, 3 points are 3 points.
Yep. So a big part of the reason why I didn't res that earlier was because I wanted the money for the remote. In case he ran the remote, I wanted to be able to res the second ice.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I technically didn't even really need that because I can use it to, shove him over to a different server. But, choices are choices.
Yeah. Do you recall what that second ice is? Are we going to be able to see that this game?
I think it's a Tithonium. But I'm not sure. I believe it's a Tithonium. It could be a vanilla too. But those are the two things it could be.
Gotcha. Well, I'm imagining if it's vanilla, you don't want to save that money, and it doesn't matter to you.
Ooh, side game for the game, by the way. So again, money doesn't matter. This is too important for 2 credits to save 2 credits. So another one I'm completely random on.
I think the best thing about this roto turret is that it actually ends.
Yeah.
Because it means that I actually have to break it. So you gate check me on the ability of Angola, right?
Yep. It also is on the outside, and is neither a code gate nor a barrier. So it is a potential target for my identity as well.
Yeah, you want to wait until he's used both abilities and then hope he runs a third time to throw him into it.
Yep, that's an option that I'm keeping open.
Does Aginfusion have to be a different server?
I already have a Cobra on the outside, so that's not nearly as relevant.
Does Aginfusion have to be a separate server than the one currently being run on?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. That's right. Okay, so the reason I'm resing, the reason why I wanted that roto turret out there is so that it forces him through something that he has to use one of his Icebreaker's abilities on before he goes into the next ice. I'm not sure what the next ice is, but it's also possible for me to use that to, push
It's
him.
Aginfusion fodder, right?
Yep.
Because I can't break Tithonium twice, and what I'm drawing for is Stim Hack. So even if I play Stim Hack, you Aginfusion me, and then I can't really get back through.
Right. Yeah, the Aginfusion deck just it forces so many decisions on the runner with so much potential for, blowing them out that it really taxes the other player.
Yeah, I feel like Aginfusion power levels are fine, and then when they upgraded Aginfusion to empty,
Yeah.
right? Because it's another, you have to contemplate what that ice could be or where they could send you for Aginfusion. Then for empty, you're like, I wonder what ice they have in hand and what they could hit me with. So they're very similar yet different.
Yeah.
Regino, were you at the Philly Store Championship?
I was not. No.
I was actually, yeah.
And we played when you were on empty, right?
Yes, yeah. That was our game was on stream and took the whole hour. Our MC versus
yeah. Because I was about to apocalypse, and then you emptied out a border control, right? That was you, huh?
Oh,
no,
nice.
I thimbled a border control.
Yeah, that was it. That play was filthy.
Oh.
Yeah. Yeah, that was you were on.
That was a good game.
APOC Val. That was a really good game. I watched that stream 2 or 3 times actually. Like when I was trying to continue practicing MT and look at the lines.
Right.
I haven't watched it again since because MT doesn't matter anymore. But that was a fantastic game.
Yeah, so I don't have a whole lot of options here. I'm just running through Cobra. Most notable is that my deck is empty, so I can't do this over and over again.
That's true. Are you
Yep. I mean,
eating the
you just
cobra?
planned your routes.
Yeah, I've been eating the cobra for like half this game.
Yep.
How are you not losing your programs then?
I think I was only breaking the trash subroutine and letting the net damage fire just to save credits.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, but you are very much out of options now.
Yeah.
So, if I recall correctly, we're nearing the end here. So we're actually coming to time for the round here.
Yeah, looks like it.
Yep. So fairly soon, time is going to get called, and then we're both going to get one turn, and that's going to make things even more exciting. Okay, so here you'll notice I drew before celebrity gifting. I actually don't have any agendas in hand, but I wanted him to think I did. So I drew a card before playing Celebrity Gift so that I would hide a card so that he might think that I did.
Sneaky bluff.
Yep.
I mean, you just want him at this point to continue to check HQ and
Yeah, I want him to waste his resources.
yeah.
So if that is a Tithonium on the middle, then I could run it for a single.
That's true. You could run it for one single access.
I think so, yeah. Because I have 8 credits or 7.
Looks to me to be 7.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I'm on 10.
Which is enough to, and you have an agenda, which is enough to raise a Tithonium.
Right.
Oh,
Do you have any other 3-pointers besides TFP?
Oh, yes, I have an SSL. One SSL.
Okay.
So that is still out there somewhere.
Yeah, but counting points, there's 10, 14 points on the table right now.
Right. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. The density
so
is crazy.
Spent a bunch of money running archives
I
because
think
he
so,
wanted
yeah.
back archives, and I trash the second ice to force you over into the remote to tax you on a click and 5 credits.
Was there anything in archives?
No,
Okay.
I am trying my best to distract you from R&D.
Sure.
And I think there was a teammate talk right there about like res windows, as we were talking about before for that upgrade.
Yep. So if
that
you
has to be
continue
pre-res before you egg them?
Yes.
Okay.
Ooh.
even if I had rezzed a Marcus Batty before I Aginfusion you over there, you would have the ability to break it before I could pop the Batty. Now, I could then Batty you after you've broken the Tithonium.
I don't think so, because I spent the Angolo ability breaking Tithonium.
Huh. Oh, had I gotten rid of your Angolo at one point?
I'm not sure what breaker I'm using. Is it Lamb? It might be Lamb.
So you on their net chips, you had both a lamb
Yeah, you
and
had
an
both.
Angolo.
Right.
Yeah.
It probably is Lamb at this point, because we saw Angolo earlier.
Yeah.
You might have run through the Cobra and not broken it and just let me trash something.
Maybe. Yeah.
But he also just didn't have the money. Yeah, and there it's
That was time in the round on my last turn, and that's it.
Yeah.
So so a 1-game match. Unfortunately, my deck was pretty slow, and I whittled you down on resources slowly over the course of time. So it took a long time to play.
Losing early Au Revoirs is really rough, I imagine, for this deck.
It is, but it's not the end of the game entirely, because he can
Right.
always click for credits. He still has breakers. He can still
And
get
clone
in.
ship, right? You saw me
Yep.
completely rebuild my rig after that first Tithonium. It
That's
was
true.
only the second one that really started this spiral.
Right. Yep. Yep. So an interesting game for sure. My deck needs more money for sure. I definitely could have played that faster. With more money, I would be forfeiting fewer agendas.
Yeah, that's true.
And
You wouldn't
so
have to
I
go
would
up to
be much quicker.
13 or whatever.
Yeah. So but it was a very interesting game.
Yeah.
That was fun to watch. I'm glad to see Hydra making a comeback. As much as I hate to see Hydra, I'm glad to see that it's like that there's more variance to corp side that makes sense. There's more viable corp strategies than just like be rushy Wayland.
Yeah.
So
if you want to ensure that you can beat it, run Paperclip.
Or just Nexus.
Paperclip is amazing.
Just Nexus everything.
Nexus is good. Nexus is definitely solid against it. But the single card that will serve you the best is Paperclip. And if you're throwing in MK Ultra and Black Orchestra, those help too. Hippo is great against it. David saves you money sometimes. Anarch in general is very strong against it. But the reason that Paperclip is so good is because the window for baddie comes before the window in which you install Paperclip.
Oh, that is important.
Yes. And likewise for MK Ultra and Black Orchestra. Also, the window for using IT department is before the encounter install Paperclip Black Orchestra MK Ultra window. So in both cases, the install ability is saving you, respectively from Marcus Batty and from IT department, and those are two of the biggest boogeymen in the deck.
Yeah. The other side of this matchup for you guys would have been David on Au Revoir Wu and NetJogging on Fast Advanced Titan.
Which would have gone much faster.
Either way, it would have been over.
Oh yeah, yeah.
I think we randomized who goes first, right? Like we just like yeah.
And most likely, I mean, that matchup is Titan favored, so NetJogging definitely would have been favored in that matchup. I did win against Titan earlier in this tournament against the same person who actually beat me. But that, I mean, I got a little lucky and, drew the right things. And they weren't drawing the agendas they needed. So it wasn't particularly representative. But yeah, so I would have definitely expected NetJogging to be advantaged there. But we ran out of time. So
we'll never know.
We will never know. No. Yeah.
Thanks, Redino, for getting us all together. This has been a blast, man.
Yeah, I'm like very happy that these are happening and we're getting these together.
Yeah, it's fun.
Yeah, I wish the footage was a little better, and in the future, I'm gonna like be more cognizant of that. Especially because I always see other people's streams, and they're always way better. Not like
it's hard.
It's hard, exactly.
Streaming
exactly.
is no joke.
And like, it's not because like this was all set up that they had at on site that I was able to just kind of like get the footage, and now we're like streaming it, but I wasn't thinking even for a second, like, oh, will there be a glare? Oh, what's the sound going to be like? None of those thoughts crossed my mind. And I watch Code Marvelous stream a lot of things live because we end up at a lot of the same events. And he's got light reflectors. He's got lights coming in to like
Right.
counteract glare, and I'm just like, the level of forethought that has to go into that.
You were at the last Worlds, right?
I was. That was insane.
Dodge Pong setup?
It was
that was
crazy.
goat.
He had 5
Straight up.
cameras. 5 different cameras. God, yeah. He had an overhead camera to see the whole thing. He had a camera over each player's shoulders to see their hands. So that's 3 right there. And I think he had one aimed at their faces as well.
Right.
So another 2, like 1 for each face. And that's insane.
I used to stream, but that's just rip, right? Like that's you can't even. How much work? He was a pro too, and he was so on it. Like you saw him, he was just like all totally professional. If y'all haven't seen that stream, it's still on his Twitch channel.
Yeah,
definitely check it out.
Definitely check that out.
Yeah.
There were some fantastic matches there.
Yep.
Yeah, but even that, like with like the ability to pull up cards as we're talking about them and be like, oh look, that's what this card says. This is what IT department says. Like instead of trying to remember card text off the top of our heads.
Team Covenant did that in post. That guy was doing it live, and it looked the same.
Yeah. Oh yeah. It's absolutely insane. I hope to one day like build the resources and the knowledge to like do this a little better, but I'm really happy with the way that these have been turning out.
Yeah, it's great, man. I really appreciate you getting us together, getting that footage. Like that's no joke. That's a lot of foresight. So shout outs to you, man, for making this happen.
Thanks.
Absolutely. I really enjoy commentating. It's fun to analyze games.
Yeah. I hope to get people on to talk just like on JNet, like while we're playing games as well, because I like to test a lot of ridiculous things, as you guys know a little bit. So having people talk through my nonsense decks is always a little fun. Yeah. But thank you for both being on here. Thank you for putting time out of your day to join us after work. For those of you watching at home, we've got one more round to stream and commentate. I forget right now who the last pair is. I think it's Rob and Sanjay, actually.
Yeah, that should be a great one.
Yeah.
Sanjay's always really fun to have comms.
Yeah, and Rob also does just an awful lot of talking. So
And he knows his stuff too. He's a very solid player.
yeah, I can't believe the skill level for the time invested. I remember we were talking about this once, like how long we've been playing and how good we are. And for Rob, it's not a lot of time and a very high skill level.
Yeah.
But I think we're gonna call it here.
Okay. Sounds good.
Thanks for coming on again. Thank you for commentating. Thank you at home for listening and watching. Have a fantastic night.
See you, everybody.
See ya.